And as an African fan, it was a very, very, very disappointing weekend. Where to start? The South Africans abysmal. I think before the whole competition started, there was this whole maybe I think fear factor around the South African teams who've just massively fallen short. What was our sort of initial reactions to the way they played this weekend?
So the Sharks to lose games, a rampant Ramos and a delightful Dupont, were very very good for Toulouse, and
Yeah,
I thought they won the game in fine fashion. A typical French performance. There was moments for Sharks. I thought the Cohen Bosch break was probably the highlight of their game, and
yeah.
I'd say going forward, I put Williams as the nine for South Africa going forward. I thought he was very very electric and what South Africa need.
I think it's interesting because I knew obviously with Toulouse, so many marquee French players, there's not really a chance you're going to win. But Stormers, I think Sharks didn't play as badly as I thought they were going to play. I think obviously you mentioned Kerwin Bosch and Grant Williams as standout performers. Kerwin Bosch, we know he's like had so much slander about not coming into the Springboks. His goal kicking's come under scrutiny, but I don't think there are many fly halves that can run a rugby ball like him. He can find a gap out of nothing. And Grant Williams as well, the tempo he brings. Would you guys make them Springbok squad players in that 23?
Yeah.
What I was saying is, well, Kerwin Bosch, defensively especially, he was playing in that fullback role.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why he can't wear 15 jersey for South Africa moving forward.
100%.
Um, I thought Ramos for me was just absolutely. I think he's got to be in the conversation as one of the best 15s, if not the best right now.
Mhm.
He's got 2 tries off Dupont, so he knows how to work well off a very, very world class nine. And I thought he was excellent. Didn't miss from the boot, and his creativity as a fullback is just immense.
Realistically, how many players are better than him? I honestly don't think it'll be ridiculous to say he's the best player in the world. He's the best goal kicker in the world. I think he didn't have a running game a year ago, if we're looking at it now, which he's added to his game. I think the only thing you could say that maybe a Keenan or Willemse has over him is their defensive ability, but he's starting to slowly emerge as a very, very special player, I think, for France. And Kieran, you said earlier, would you say he's changing that 15 role and sort of in a way we've never seen before?
A lot of fullbacks have solely based themselves off high capturing like Stewart, but I think mainly with Ramos, he's using that kicking and he's changing the way fullbacks will play in the future. Like a fullback like him, that is the future realistically.
All right, I just want to say something after what you both said. So I'm a big fan of Ramos. I think
Mhm.
he's really relaxed on the rugby pitch. He plays what he sees. He's a great kicker, great passer, great runner. He's like a Finn Russell from 15. But to say that A, he's the best player in the world, and B, he's changing the way fullbacks play the game, I think is a bit of a stretch. Would we
No,
not agree
because
that's a bit of a stretch?
Burhan, if he's the best in his position, he's in the best in the conversation for best in the world. Would you not say so? Because he's dominating the
But
15
but but
show.
he's not outright the best in his position. He's debatably the best in his position, not definitely.
Who would you say comes into the conversation with him? Outside of Keenan, who else would you say does?
I'm not looking. I think Valemza played well on the weekend at
Yeah.
15. I
Mhm.
think Stewart can't take him out of the conversation. DMAC when he goes back to 15. There's loads of players.
Okay, that's that. You have named a few good players. I'll probably stick with Ramos. I'm not sure with Kieran. What about you? Who are you sticking with for best 15? Maybe best player.
Right now, I'm going to move away from Keenan and say Ramos. I think Ramos has the edge
All
over
right.
Keenan, but it's close. It's close. But
Um,
Okay, yeah.
I just
Okay, we'll say that he is the best 15 in the world, but that doesn't make him the best player in the world. And
no, I
it
think
also,
that was a far stretch.
yeah, it also doesn't mean he changes the way that fullbacks play the game because there's been players like him before him.
But it's not done up to his standard though, because he is
yeah,
like, there's no way you can stop him. He is unstoppable at fullback.
kicking ability, the 50
All right.
22s, the control he has off his boot is actually insane. I think.
I'd
Sorry, Brad, yeah, you go.
say that no one does it like him. He's a great player. He's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mhm.
Arguably the best in the world in his position. But he's not done anything that revolutionizes rugby. There's been good kicking 15s before. There's been 15s that play in a similar way to how he plays.
Mhm.
Like he's not doing any changes rugby, I don't think.
Can I do something? Can I ask you a question? What is Dupont doing to revolutionize the way the nine plays it? Because he's just doing what every other nine's meant to do, but he just does
Yeah.
it as a
Is he
better
though?
style.
Because I've never seen a nine as physical as him. I've never seen a
Faf de
nine be
Klerk.
given. Yeah,
Mike
Faf de Klerk.
Phillips, Mike Phillips.
Mike Phillips was not. I'm talking about physical, as in bumping off the opposition, and
Yeah, Mike Phillips.
that in an attacking sense. I've never seen a 9 who was an out and out attacking threat 1-on-1 by themselves, like
Furry
I've seen Dupont.
Furry
Harry
Dupont,
Randall.
Aaron
Not like
Smith.
Dupont.
Like,
Aaron Smith is not a 1-on-1 attacking threat. He's very good. He's got a good eye for a gap, but he's not a player that you would put into a 1-on-1 situation like Dupont is. This is my point.
Anyway,
No one's used a 9 in that sense before. No one's used a 9 to box kick off both feet the way Dupont does before. No 9 has an attacking kicking game like Dupont has. What these things that he's doing is something that no 9 has done before.
that's valid.
What do we think of what do we think of that Entomac break when he literally ran from like 40 yards out, dummy straight onto the post? What do you think about that?
His role is real. His role is real.
Forever.
I don't think there's any denying that he's a baller. I think we obviously were a bit. I know Jack was a massive advocate for him still being one of the best 10s in the world. We were sort of on the fence with him, a bit worried as to whether he'd lost that sparkle a bit. But he's coming into form at the right time, and I don't think that can be denied. What do you reckon, Rohan?
Yeah, 100%. He's definitely a player. I think the more Dupont and Entomac play together, the best they'll get out of each other. Because we saw in the Six Nations with Dupont taking control that maybe Entomac becomes a bit quieter. And in previous years before that, we've seen Entomac take control and Dupont be a bit quieter. So I think when they find that balance and balance it out, they'll be unstoppable as a unit.
Just one more thing to talk about for that Sharks game. I think as a Springbok fan, watching the performances of Sia Khaleesi and Lekanyuam of late, I'm starting to get a bit on the point where I'm like, is this maybe just a bit of pre-World Cup rust or this carry on into the World Cup? I know Lekanyuam's coming off an injury and he did do some good things like setting up that try, but this isn't a World Player of the Year Lekanyuam that we saw last year. Like, what do you guys think about those guys, just as opposition fans? Do you still find them as threatening as maybe they once were?
Yeah,
I
I
think
did.
the way I look at it, I see he comes off an injury. He's not going to be as threatening, like you said.
Yeah.
Will he come? Will he turn up at a World Cup? Yeah. Like Lekanyuam will turn up at a World Cup. So I think it doesn't really matter about the rust because he's just got a couple of games to find his form in Europe. Well, not anymore. Lol. And then a couple of warm-up games, and I think he'll be in fine form as soon as the World Cup comes around.
Yeah, the good thing for players in South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, they've got time and they've got games. They've got the Rugby Championship coming up. They've got their entire season ahead of them. So,
moving on to the next game of the weekend, if I'm not mistaken, the shocker of the weekend, I think is fair to say, Stormers versus Exeter. Wow. I mean, hearing what you guys summarize the game, I don't even want to speak about it.
I don't think it's that shocking. I think Brett Burns is taking a huge L. His Stormers boys took a massive L. He is an L. I think it was just a typical Exeter performance. They dominated through the pack. Jack Noel scoring tries, Sam Simmons. They littered them with just physicality. I don't think Stormers were ready for that. A lot of South African teams pride themselves off of physicality, but they were just like babies on the pitch, to be honest. And Exeter took them to the races.
one thing I want to say, Taddy, and I'm directing this question at you because Kieran and you often have this debate about props and what you want from your prop. For the Sam Simmons try, there's no debate that I think it's Malherbe's lack of mobility is what causes the defense there, it causes the gap. So I think you have to recognize that although for all his great qualities and what he's good at, that is not the best way a prop can be. That's not the best thing a prop can be. That he has his disadvantages with it that comes with his advantages is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned Malherbe because the set piece, if you guys saw from the Stormers, was appalling. They weren't dominating at scrum time, and at the lineouts, they were really, really poor as well. I think.
What? A South African getting dominated in the scrum? That's shocking.
I mean, I think Kieran talks about it a lot, and this is what I always say to Kieran. This is why you play someone like Malherbe for 40 minutes because you can't play the full 80. You just can't. I think he exerts a lot of energy in the first half. He's a dominant scrummager, but to try and put him on towards that 80-minute mark doesn't make sense to me. I think Stormers need to have a good scrummager replacement to come on for Malherbe, and maybe someone that's more dynamic that can last and be more effective in that other 40 minutes.
Do you know it's interesting you mentioned Malherbe because I think at club rugby it's actually faster than international rugby. I think international rugby is slower. So I think Mal Herbert suits the Springboks way. I wouldn't be too concerned about Mal Herbert losing the scrum. I mean, he did lose to a pretty awful Exeter front row, so that is worrying in that sense. But when it comes to South Africa, he'll still be one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, I can only hope so. It's just like South African players. I mean, I just hope they can sort of hit their peak at the right time going into the World Cup. I think we usually do, but it's just like, yeah, I'm not too sure.
And
But it does show a weakness in South Africa, because if I was planning on playing South Africa, I would say have as little stoppages as possible, make the game as fast as possible, and then your Franz Malherbe, players like that will get tired and gaps will open up. That's how you beat South Africa now.
And that's how New Zealand dominated us throughout the 2010s. That Carter team, I don't think anybody else exposed us like that Carter team. If you look at our losses to England, if you look at our losses to France, if you look at our losses that we had in that period, it's just because you take away the Boxers' physicality. That's how you beat them. The problem is, it's not as easy as you're saying it is. It's very hard to stop the Box from being physical.